I think I have a theory about what's going on in Planarcadia with Shuhu and the Phantom Moon games, Asat Pramad, and Graphia. But in order to help you understand what I'm talking about, we need to have a bit of a refresher on who the big bad is on this planet, Asat Pramad. Asat Pramad is a Lord Ravager, an emanator of Nanook the Destruction, whose sole purpose is to destroy the Elation. Just like Fentilia's purpose was to destroy the Abundance, and Iron Tomb was supposed to destroy Erudition, Asat's goal is the destruction of the Elation and Aha themselves. Asat is described as more chess master than warlord, moving his legions with methodical precision. And he is the slow invader. His MO is slowly invade planets blessed by the Elation and destroy them methodically. For example, the infamous fall of the Ogle Ring. For over a century, Asat moved his antimatter legion forces inch by inch until the legion forces all lined up, spelling out the phrase, "Destruction is where laughter ends. It is mourning, not celebration." So yeah, he plays the long game. His entry in the databank says, when his work is done, he scorches a giant smiling face into the surface of every dead planet, as if mocking the very idea of life. I hope this gives you a better picture of the kind of Lord Ravager we are dealing with here. He sets a series of malicious games out and then, over a period of time, destroys them. So I think the Phantom Moon games, Graphia sealing the world in canvas, and the remnants of Ouroboros and Shuhu on Planarcadia are all part of Asat's plan. Now, while I think he is a mastermind, a chess player of disastrous proportions, I don't think even he could perfectly plan out every single thing that would happen. He's not Elio. However, one of the benefits of playing the long game is that you have time to take advantage of situations that arise and make it seem like they were your intention from the start. One of the biggest theories about why Ouroboros and the Abundance are present in Planarcadia is connected to the story told in Divergent Universe about the Wax Knight and Lunar Knight. It talks about two gallant knights who fought a serpent with 100 heads whose venom had corroded the land. It states the Lunar Knight severed its head with the crescent. The Wax Knight melted its body. This leads me to believe that the Lunar Knight is Aha, and the Wax Knight is Klapoth, and the serpent is Ouroboros. The story states they defeated the 100 heads, but the serpent didn't die, and a fang pierced not only the knight's armor, but the moon itself. Keep in mind the moon is Aha, the Lunar Knight, lunar being moon. The story goes on to say the wounded Lunar Knight was seized by madness from that day forth, his descent into frenzy fueled by the very moonlight. So I take this to believe that Aha was bitten by Ouroboros and infected. Now we are going to pause the night story and shift over to another readable. I swear Planarcadia has some of the most lore-relevant readables. Anyway, this readable is called The Cake of God Hypothesis. Essentially, this readable states that Aha was being hunted by other Aeons during the swarm disaster. I believe the events of what was happening in the Lunar Knight readable happened during the swarm disaster, where the Aeons destroyed Tazeronth, that Aha was helping fight the propagation, Tazeronth, who had created an alliance with Ouroboros. And that's how their conflict began. This information is important for you to understand what is coming up next. This readable states, the prototype of Imagine originated from a cake baked by Aha when they were starving while being hunted by other Aeons during the swarm disaster. This cake was created with debris from the divine battle, including a leaf from Yausha to replace the flower. So essentially, I think the bite from Ouroboros caused Aha to go mad, and in an attempt to calm their madness, they built this cake of God that would feed the Ouroboros infection inside them. The readable goes on to say Aha missed the flavor of the cake dearly after that and attempted to recreate it. It states these materials piled up like construction materials beside Klapoth, eventually forming Planarcadia. and they built a giant oven to heat the cake, a tool later known as the Phantom Moon, successfully recreating the cake of God. The readable ends with, "In time, countless chefs gathered here to learn from Aha. Millennia later, a master baker finally recreated the cake of God, using soil, ink, and stories based on the miracle. Thus, she did name them Imagine, and her name was Graphia." Now that you have the background and puzzle pieces, let's put them together, shall we? Aha, the lunar knight, was bitten by the serpent with 100 heads, Ouroboros. This caused Aha to go mad and the Aeons to hunt them down. In order to sate their hunger, created from Ouroboros, Aha baked a cake that included a leaf from Yausha. Later on, missing the flavor of this cake, they sought ingredients to remake this cake that eventually piled up, becoming Planarcadia. They built a giant oven, the Phantom Moon, to remake this cake. After they were successful, countless chefs came to learn this from Aha. A millennium later, Graphia recreated the cake of God using soil, ink, and stories based on the miracle, and thus named them Imagine. Essentially, I believe that Ouroboros did bite Aha during the swarm disaster, that Aha did fall into madness, and in order to cure that madness and sate their hunger, the hunger that was a result of the veracity inside of them, they created the Phantom Moon and Planarcadia as a way to funnel wish power to Aha. Wish power sustains Aha and feeds Ouroboros. The leaf that was initially plucked from Yausha, how did Aha replicate that later on? He plucked Evanesia from Yausha's garden. I believe these two readables are a roundabout way of telling us that Aha is utilizing wish power, Imagine, and the power of abundance to keep Ouroboros fed and sealed. That the Phantom Moon games were created to keep Aha's infection in check. The reason why the Phantom Moon games happens every 30 to 50 years is because that's what it takes to keep Ouroboros fed and sealed. That Evanesia is the overseer of these games, the manifestation of the abundance tree, in order to ensure that Ouroboros keeps being fed. She is the prison guard. The reason Aha plucked her from the garden of Yausha was to have a funnel to feed Ouroboros. I believe that Ouroboros is the natural enemy of Yausha, the abundance. As to say that Ouroboros and the veracity can consume the abundance in its entirety and absorb it. We've seen people try and take in the abundance and they turn into Mara-struck monsters or full wish henchmen like before, but I believe that the buck stops at Ouroboros. That is why Yao Guang hints to Blade in the 4.2 story that Ouroboros might be able to help with the remnants of Shuhu.
As for the burial site, I have chosen Planarcadia, at the end of the world in Canvas. Sealed there is the entity that will allow you to exact revenge on Shuhu.
So what does this have to do with Asat Pramad? Well, as you know, the Imagine being produced by Planarcadia since the IPC's rescue from the world in Canvas has been, in Sparkle's words,
"Their elation is mind-numbingly boring."
And the Imagine now have jobs and work, and their energy is being placed elsewhere. If wish power and Imagine give Planarcadia life energy and feed Ouroboros, keeping them sealed, then the degradation of the quality of energy means that there will be more required to keep Ouroboros sealed. That is why, despite the Phantom Moon games happening every 30 to 50 years regularly, it started up again in just a short 15 years. So let's say you're Asat Pramad. You want to destroy the Elation. You tried a while back, but Graphia foiled your attempt and sealed the world in Canvas. On the chessboard of battle, you lost a piece. No matter, the game is still not lost. Sometimes sacrifices are necessary, because in swoops the IPC, playing the savior of Planarcadia, restoring the world in Canvas to reality. However, Planarcadia is at the mercy of the IPC now. The wish power and imagine being created are lackluster. Nothing like what used to be created before. And the more that's made, the more energy that is expended for lackluster food for Ouroboros, the more likely the Ouroboros is to escape and wreak havoc onto the planet. The prison guard, Evanesia, can be taken out too, by forcing her to become the supplicant or become a supplicant in the Phantom Moon games. That stretches her limits and exhausts her power. This makes her a weak guard. But then there's Graphia. Graphia, whose bloodline was cursed to wither away and die before they reached 30. I believe that Graphia gave of herself and her life force to sustain Planarcadia while they were in the world in canvas. The weathering curse is the result of sustaining the world in canvas and sustaining Graphia herself. That Graphia tied herself to the world in canvas and thus must remain there and cursed her bloodline. In the readable compulsory history course in higher education, World in Canvas, there's a section titled Aristocrat of the World in Canvas. And it details the larger, more wealthy families were seen as administrators of the Phantom Moon games and harbor a personal responsibility for their world. This would explain why Graphia, tying herself and her descendants to the world in canvas, was so accepted. However, is this enough to make every descendant keep the bloodline going? Why would Graphia's descendants keep having children? Why would they keep their bloodline going if they knew there was a terrible curse on them? Even if majority of them adhered to this societal norm and expectation, why did they keep allowing the curse to continue? There is a readable that talks about previous weathering curse victims. It discusses one Graphia descendant named Nephia, who made a deal with a devil clad in black who offered her a way to survive. This way, however, was to offer up the lives of others. Nephia took the deal, creating monsters from her paintings and leaving corpses strewn about wherever she went. The readable notes that Nephia sat poised upon the back of an unspeakable monstrosity, her features serene and beautiful, showing no sign of the curse that threatened to fracture her. Nephia was eventually killed by numerous artists in Imagine, one of them being her own father. However, this lends credit to the theory that the curse requires life force. And what creature is stuck in the torn scroll? The same scroll that Graphia is staying in and gave of her bloodline to maintain? Ouroboros. So if Asat is waiting to release, or is wanting to release Ouroboros, all he has to do is stop the funnel of life energy from feeding Ouroboros and to get rid of the two guards, Evanesia and Graphia. I believe the devil clad in black who offered Nephia the initial deal was Asat Pramad. He tested a plan, using Nephia like a science experiment. So I believe we will find out that the way Himiko was cured of her weathering curse was something that was given to her by Asat Pramad, either in disguise or indirectly, but not as forward as he was with Nephia. As in, I don't think Himiko would realize it was him or that it was coming from him, thus cutting off the funnel of life energy to Graphia and either killing her or allowing her to be tainted by the destruction or veracity. Yes, I think we will have to fight Graphia in this next patch. Asat is playing the long game, utilizing the natural tragedies that have happened and spurning some of his own, all in the hopes of destroying the elation from the inside. Just as in chess, the best way to win is to utilize your opponent's structural flaws and imbalances. Asat will use the structural flaws and imbalances of Planarcadia to destroy it. I know that was a lot, and I hope that I got what I was trying to say across. The double-edged sword with theory crafting is that you can put a lot of effort into it and do a lot of research and still end up being wrong. So I hope that even if I do end up being wrong, and even if this is not what's going to happen, it's still something that you found enjoyable and that you can find some value in, even if it was just fun to listen to. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about the theory. If you have theories of your own, please feel free to include them. I would love to hear them. And as always, I'm Belle. Thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you in the next one.